With the 2019-20 NBA season just ending a few weeks ago and there being no games to watch, NBA fans have started focusing on certain teams that can make moves in this year's offseason. And in today's video, I will be talking about 6 blockbuster trades that can happen in this offseason. Please like this video to show support and help my channel grow. Subscribe to help me reach my goal of 500 subscribers before the end of 2020. Comment on this video to start a conversation with me and play that intro. The first trade we will discuss involves Chris Paul going to the LA Lakers, and the package is Chris Paul to the Lakers, and the Oklahoma City Thunder would receive Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee, and the Lakers' 2027 first-round pick, along with their 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, and 2027 second-round pick. The Lakers would be giving a lot just for a 35-year-old Paul, but just last season, Paul led a team that was supposed to be one of the worst in the NBA to the playoffs, so he has shown that he still has some game. And in his time at Houston, he played with one of the most ball-dominant players in history in James Harden, so I think he could play well along LeBron and AD. Although the Lakers would be giving up a lot of depth, Paul is a player who can create his shot at any time and creates plays for others. I think a move like this is a big risk, but also has potential to have a huge reward. The biggest scare would be how old Paul is, with him being 35, which means he will be slowing down soon and won't be the same player. Another scare with him is his injury risk, because although Paul was healthy all last season, in prior seasons he always missed a bunch of games, and his injuries have often came at the worst times. So if the Lakers would be giving up all of that depth, they would need their whole big three to be healthy at all times. The Thunder would be getting a lot of veterans and picks. I honestly think this trade is somewhat likely to happen, but I think the Lakers would not benefit from this trade, and I think their lack of depth will be too much to overcome and will make them a worse team. And I think the Thunder can get a better trade package than this. The next trade I will be talking about is Kevin Love to the Portland Trail Blazers, and Zach Collins, Kent Bazemore, Nasir Little, and one of their future first-round picks to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This trade would give Portland a good starting power forward in Love, who can space out the floor and help Portland. Although Love is a huge defensive liability, his shooting can make up for it. Love in this past season averaged 17 points per game, 10 rebounds on 37% from 3, so he isn't washed up, and I think he is just as good as he was in his prime Cleveland years. I think a move like this can help the Blazers, who have struggled just to make the playoffs, just like they did this past season, needing to make the play-in game and play super good down the stretch just to make the playoffs. I think this move can make the Blazers a dark horse team, kind of like the Nuggets. I see them being a 4 to 6 seed with this move, with the explosive scoring talent they have with CJ and Dame, where they can explode and upset any team. Because if you have that good of an offense, there's always a chance for you to explode and expose a top team like the Nuggets did to the Clippers. I do think the Blazers' lack of defense will hold them back, and unless they fill out the rest of the roster with people who can defend, they have little chance to be a contender. I think this trade is unlikely because of Kevin's injury risk, and also Portland might not want to give up Zach Collins and that first round pick, and I don't think Portland should make this move. The next trade I will talk about is the Warriors acquiring Bradley Beal and the Washington Wizards acquiring Andrew Wiggins, the second pick in the 2020 NBA draft, and the Timberwolves 2021 first round pick. This trade would give the Warriors a big four of Steph, Clay, and Beal, and Dre. The Warriors' floor spacing would be crazy, and they would be the best offensive team in the NBA, and it would give the Warriors another shot creator who can somewhat make plays for their teammates, and Clay is coming off a terrible injury, and he most likely won't be his usual self, so having Beal to take pressure off him would be key to their success. Also, Beal can play off ball and isn't ball dominant, so the Warriors having 3 of the best off-ball shooters in the league, along with Draymond, who is able to make those passes to them, will make them very elite on offense and hard to guard. The Wizards would get proper pieces to start their rebuild, because I don't think if they keep Beal, they will be a contender. Having Wiggins, who is a 20 points per game scorer, and 2 first-round picks, with one of them being the second pick and the other projected to be a top 10 pick, is not a bad return for Beal. I think this trade is somewhat likely, but I don't think it will happen this offseason. Next trade I'll be talking about is probably the least interesting one in this video, which is DeMar DeRozan to the Orlando Magic and Aaron Gordon to the Spurs. This trade will give Orlando a go-to scorer in DeRozan who can create his own shot at any times, and the Magic have never had a player like that, and that might possibly be what they need to take the next step, because Orlando over the course of the last 2 seasons have been one of the worst offensive teams, because their offense has been running through players like Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, and Evan Fournier, and DeRozan is a huge upgrade to those players. Orlando has consistently been at the bottom of the playoff seedings, and I doubt this move will change that, but it will make them a more fun team to watch and definitely more competitive. Although DeRozan can't space the floor, he is a good off-ball player and can create plays for others. The Spurs getting Aaron Gordon gives them a nice young player who can be a supporting player in their rebuild. And for years, many people have anticipated Gordon to make the leap, and maybe on a new team like the Spurs, they can develop him into a star. I think this trade has a good chance of happening, and I think both teams would benefit from this deal. This next trade is the least likely to happen, and that is a sign-and trade with Malik Beasley and the first pick in the 2020 draft to Philadelphia and Ben Simmons to the Timberwolves. This trade would shock the world, and the Wolves would instantly have a top 3 future, and I think they would be capable of making the playoffs. Ben could also help Minnesota because he's a top 5 defender in the NBA and can change their defensive ceiling. Simmons could also create plays for others and can help Towns and D'Lo. Philadelphia would likely draft LaMelo, and that would give them a good shooter and playmaker. Beasley is also a good shooter and can space the floor for Embiid. I don't think this trade will happen, but I think if Minnesota added a few more assets like Jared Culver and 2 more first-round picks, this would be a good trade for Philly. I think this trade can happen next offseason, and I think both teams would benefit. The last trade I will talk about involves the Warriors again, and this trade is Jrue Holiday to the Warriors and Andrew Wiggins and the second pick to the Pelicans. This trade would give the Warriors one of the most underrated players in the NBA in Jrue, who is a top 5 guard defender, and he can create plays for others and space the floor. He can also play off the ball and cover for Steph on defense, since it's anticipated Klay won't be the same immediately, especially on defense. This trade, in my opinion, would help the Warriors as much as the Bradley Beal trade, because Jrue is a capable scorer and is a way better defender than Beal. So I think this move would put the Warriors over teams like the Nuggets, Clippers, and maybe even the Lakers. This trade would brighten the Pelicans' future and more, and they could draft a center like Wiseman to add to their young core. I don't know how well Wiggins would fit, but he still is a young player with potential. I think this trade can seriously happen, and I think both teams would benefit. Anyways guys, that's it for the video. Please like this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to the channel to help me reach 500 subscribers before the end of 2020. And comment on this video to start a conversation with me. Check out these 2 videos up above if you like this one. And I'm out.